I'm delighted to be here today, really just to be able to share some of the work that we've been doing down in Inverclyde around compassionate communities. And, you know, it's not perfect, but it's a start. And I think that's what days like this help us to do. It helps us plant a seed of perhaps having the courage to think, yeah, we could do something like that in our own area. So I'll tell you a wee bit about the work in Inverclyde. So this is the logo. Now, I've got a board, and on the board that represents really a community. So places like Police Scotland, Education, Macmillan, the HSCP, Acute Services, etc. There's 16 people on the board. And I don't know if you've ever been through the process of creating a logo, but it's quite difficult because we couldn't have blue because of Rangers and we couldn't have green because of Celtic, where we live in particular in the west of Scotland. The football colours are still quite prevalent, and yellow is quite, you know, Marie Curie have yellow and things like that. So Compassionate Inverclyde is purple, although it doesn't really show up on that slide really well. I had to present for an award the other week, or I was asked to do that, and I wanted a snappy thing to say, you know, why was it working? Now, this is not evidence-based, so the P's are not evidence-based, but this is my observation of what is making Compassionate Inverclyde so far a success. And I've got 4 P's here, but the most important one that I've missed out is passion. And it's not up on that slide, so there's 5 P's definitely, and passion is certainly the top. People, partnership, place and programmes. And I'll tell you a bit about that as we go through. I've got 10-15 minutes to really cram into what has been a lot of work, so please bear with me and I'll just rattle through it. Hopefully a workshop suggests that we will work together, however time limits and constraints are not allowing us to do that, but hopefully we'll allow maybe 5 minutes at the end for any questions or observations or whatever. So Compassionate Inverclyde was launched last March 2017. I was the Director of Care at Argown Hospice for 9 years, and I've been seconded into this role for 3 years, and I'm now in year 3. So the first year I used to go out and network and meet people and engage with our community. I'm the full-time paid person, and I work with, I'm going to use for this presentation the word volunteers, but I don't call anyone volunteers. I believe that volunteers have a role to play in an organisation, but this is absolutely about ordinary people helping ordinary people. But just for understanding's sake, I've got 103 volunteers and no budget. So any of this work had to be created in our community with the resource of time and people, and recently there have been monetary donations as well. I was able to tap into some local health improvement grants. For example, £500 for the High Five programme or £900 for No One Dies Alone or whatever, but 3 wee pots of money, but no other big pots. So what was the aim? It really was to build on the compassionate community, and a community whereby everyone recognises that they have a role to play and helping each other in and out, especially times of crisis and at loss. It's about ordinary people helping ordinary people. The inspiration, as we've heard today, comes from the Compassionate Cities Charter. Previous to that was, I heard Alan speaking about 10 years ago at a conference, and he was talking about beer mats and about messages about prostate cancer on beer mats in pubs. And he also, at the time, spoke about a competition for children to get involved in primary schools and secondary schools. And I thought, do you know what? I could do that. Like, we could do that at the hospice and whatever. So I came back full of enthusiasm, and that was where it first started. And we had conference, but it wasn't an academic conference. It was a conference to showcase our partnership in the community. And it was to celebrate 30 years of Argown Hospice. But at that conference, what we asked people to do in Inverclyde was, what would you like the future to look like? And people signed up to a statement, and they said that they wanted it to be compassionate and looking after each other. So we formed a wee group. At the time, there was 4 of us, and we really worked hard to think, well, what would a compassionate community look like? We had absolutely no idea at that time. So you're talking about 8 years ago, when initially we had the first discussions about it, until it got to this point. But what it is and what it isn't, this is the really exciting part. This is about, it's part of this social movement. It's part of, around the globe, creating compassionate communities. It involves ordinary people. This is not about health professionals, but it's about our community working alongside health professionals to allow people, perhaps at the end of life in particular, the dignity and respect that they deserve. It's not another service provision, and do you know what? It's not prescriptive. It's so amazing to work with a community with no blueprint, if you like, that confines you into a framework that you have to work towards. You listen to the people that you're working with, and you build the projects. Well, that's what we've done in Inverclyde. No, not saying that that's the only way to do that. But it came from, it's a needs-based evolution, and it's almost been like grounded theory. So we've had an idea, and we've worked along with that, and then something else happens, and we've went along that way, and then something else happens, and it's transformed like that. But the very first thing that I did in Inverclyde was go out and say, what's it like to live there? I asked over 200 people, what is it like to live in Inverclyde? And drilling down into the information that came back was, it was compassionate, helpful and neighbourly. So Compassionate Inverclyde now has those 3 words as the key values. Nothing that we will develop will be anything other than based on these values. One of the keys, I said, to success was partnership, and it's been absolutely crucial to the development that everybody was on board, that we got people together from the local community, people who had a voice in the HSCP and a voice in the council and a voice in education and all of that, that were hearing the same message, and that they were then taking that out to their own people. So on this slide, I've tried to represent who is sitting on the board of Compassionate Inverclyde. Sometimes when you speak about compassion, especially to businesses and organisations, they think, oh, that's that airy-fairy stuff, it's all that love and kindness stuff. No, we don't do that. We're absolutely about efficiency and effectiveness and all of that stuff. And Compassionate Inverclyde is about kindness, and it is about love, and it is about ordinary people sharing what they have, who they are with someone else, but it does come from policy. It is sitting with what are the key documents saying about compassionate communities. A long time ago in 2008, we had the Living and Dying Well, and that first kind of got us talking about normalising death and dying in society. And Inverclyde in particular has a strategy at the minute called Nurturing Inverclyde. And it's not just getting it right for every child, it was getting it right for every child, citizen and community. So we've got real firm foundations in Inverclyde. And then, as we heard earlier, the Scottish Government's action plan for palliative care, saying that recognising that people in our community working alongside health professionals seemed a good way to go forward to provide support. So we took from that, what were the key messages? Personal well-being seemed to be in all of these documents about improving well-being. Compassionate citizenship, and that's around working with the people that we have in our communities, raising awareness and engaging with schools and compassionate organisations. When I started to look into, well, what is well-being? What could we do around well-being? And it's so well documented in the literature that there's 5 key ways to well-being. And that they are taking notice, education, exercise, connecting with others, and giving, kindness. So I was thinking, well, 2 of those are really, really significant at the end of life. The connecting with others and giving, whether it's your time, your resource, your skill, your money, or whatever. So those two things within wellbeing really ticks a lot of boxes, because what we've done with that programme is take the 5 key things and put it in a programme that runs over 5 weeks, and it's completely transferable from, I piloted it in a primary school, year 2, primary 2, and college students, work organisations, friends, carers, bereavement group, and so far 266 people have went through the High 5 programme about improving wellbeing. In the schools, we are planting the seed of kindness and about how the children can be kind to each other through words and actions and attitudes, so that perhaps as they go through school, they'll be used to be talking to their friends in a kind way, recognising that they like something about somebody, so that when they're adults, that they might be well placed when we're all getting older, that these young children now will be the people who perhaps will be looking after us, and they will have understood a wee bit about being kind. I've just finished working with 125 pupils in one of the secondary schools in second year. Now, 13-year-olds. I don't envy the teachers, honestly. It was hard work. But from that work, what they're going to be doing is going into 3 groups, and they're going to form kindness projects that they will deliver in Inverclyde, that they will plan, they will organise, and their ideas will go out into the community, just to keep on the subject of kindness and how we can make our community a more compassionate place to be. No one dies alone. This was around citizenship, around what are we doing in our community at the end of life? How can we do it and promote, like neighbourliness? But I thought we need to start somewhere that perhaps is safe. So the No One Dies Alone programme is a programme that is volunteer-led. They're called companions. And these companions, I've got 53 companions who have all been trained. You have to keep people safe, and they have went through the PVG, they have had interviews and references, trying to keep the bureaucracy at an absolute minimum. But what I'm hoping out of this in particular project would be that if we started it in a safe place in a hospital, and people are getting experience of sitting with someone who's dying as an ordinary person, then they will be able to take that perhaps out into the community and say if someone was dying in the street, or a friend or family member was dying, that they've had a bit of experience about that, and they would be able to offer themselves to actually offer something to do. So Inverclyde Hospital is the first hospital in Scotland that has this. We started in December, and we've supported 10 people so far. As I say, we've got 53 companions. We're just about to I've just finished training in our first care home, and hopefully within the next wee while, every care home in Inverclyde will be able to tap into the No One Dies Alone programme. And then I'm hoping that if anyone wants to die at home, then we will be able to accommodate that in the future. I went back out and spoke to the people after a year, been in post a year, and said, are we missing anything? Is there anything at all? So we've started the No One Dies Alone, we're doing this thing about well-being, and is there anything that we're missing? And a lot of conversations, most of the conversations come back to loneliness and isolation. And they said, what would it be like? What must it be like to come home from hospital? You've been in hospital and you get home and you don't even have as much as a pint of milk to make a cup of tea. So I thought we could do something with this. So I went, knocked at Amazon's door and said, I've become a real great salesperson, and people now that just try to avoid me when I'm around, because I'll ask them to do something. But Amazon said yes. And I have to say that most of the doors that I have knocked on so far, they've said yes. It's been quite amazing. So now everyone in Inverclyde Royal Hospital who is getting discharged home, who lives alone, will get a box, a back home box they're called. And in the box is tea, coffee, sugar, long life milk, fresh bread gets put in on the day of delivery, a packet of biscuits, a tin of meat, a cup of soup, so that the person can make a hot drink and be able to make a light snack. But we also asked our local community what else could go in the box. So we come up with knitted knee blankets. So all of the knitting groups in Inverclyde are knitting knee blankets to go in the box. The children in every single school in Inverclyde are making cards, welcome home cards that go in the box. We put right service leaflets in the box so that people can have phone numbers that they can contact. And we put a wee token of kindness that the Dalai Lama says, be kind whenever possible, it is always possible. And if you don't want or need anything in this box, please pass it on. I have to say these boxes have grown arms and legs. We started on the 13th of November. I've got 41 helpers who go up to the hospital 7 days a week. And 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, 9 till 11 and 1 till 3, they pack the boxes and they take the boxes round the wards. And the nurses are able to say, I've got 3 patients, I've got 1 person, or whatever. There is no age, and it doesn't matter about your diagnosis. The criteria to get a box is if you live alone. And I could be in tears most days at the feedback from these boxes. It is quite something. But what has been interesting is, in gathering the statistics since November, the biggest majority of people who get these boxes are over 75, but also over 80. So although we're not directly saying that this project, this community act of kindness is about end of life, the biggest majority of people who are receiving one of these boxes is going to be approaching the last few years of life. We've got a pledge calendar, so we've encouraged churches, schools, all of that, because every single thing that goes in that box has been a donation from a member of the Inverclyde community. Every single thing. And it's quite remarkable. One wee man phoned me up and he said, it was my turn to buy bread. This was in the early days. It was my turn to buy bread, and I went to Olds. Now, Olds is a local baker, and the bread's quite expensive, so I don't even buy bread at Olds. But anyway, I was running late, got this loaf, and he phoned me up and he said, do you know what? He says, I've never tasted bread like that. And see that meat, it was in that box? My God, it was just beautiful. And do you know, he said that he had never, his meals were just what he could find. And then this box was presented to him, and he had what felt to him was like Christmas. And a lot of the feedback that I'm getting is actually somebody cared enough to put this together, and that has been a lot of the feedback, and this is really making a difference. One of the key things to the success of this programme was working with the ambulance service, because the box goes home with the person, and that makes the difference. They are walking home in the door with that box that they're able to make a cup of tea. And the ambulance service have supported that, and I really take my hat off to them, because I know what the service is like. So that's the back home boxes. We all the time have supported absent friends, and we try to get that growing year on year, and I'm just aware that I'm forgetting I've only got 10 minutes or whatever, so I'll carry on. And it's given the opportunity to put Inverclyde on the map. It's a really great place. It gets a terrible name. There's lots of deprivation, but the generosity of the people in Inverclyde is second to none. And this is just a few speaking opportunities. We've been featured on BBC Two Timeline programme. We've got 2 bereavement cafes running. But all of this work takes place because people in our community, ordinary people who want to help ordinary people, are making this happen. So going back to the key values, it's all about acts of kindness. It's about saying yes to help, and it's about ordinary people. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Julie Crawford and I work on a project called Link Up. I don't have a PowerPoint, so I must stop looking at that screen. So Link Up is funded through Scottish Government via Inspiring Scotland, and there's 9 Link Up areas across Scotland. I work in the one in Muirhouse in Edinburgh. I have been working there for 6 years now, and really the kind of premise of Link Up is about good old-fashioned community development work. So getting into a community, getting alongside people, working out what I like to call the little nuggets of gold. So who are the people that have got some passion, some interests, some skills that they'd like to share with other people? And really the idea being that if local people could get to know other local people, they build up a much better social network, and they're far more able to think about how they can solve some of their own problems and some of the wider community problems. All very familiar. In terms of for Link Up Muirhouse, we have a whole variety of activities like you could imagine. So we have community shops, we have archery groups, we've got bingo nights, we've got photography groups, blah, 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 blah. I could be here all day chatting about them. So in the kind of 6 years, we've worked with over 2,000 people, and a bit like Alison, I'm not so keen on the word volunteers, but we've got kind of key members of the community that take on really active roles and really take activities forward. I kind of like to see my role a bit like a parent if you've ever had a toddler. So you're kind of behind this toddler and they're learning to walk. So you don't want to just take their hand and yank them and pull them, but you also don't want to let them fall and hurt themselves. And that's exactly what my role is like with groups. So I'm kind of just there, almost waiting for the fall. They just always know that I'm kind of there should they need something. I'm there just to give them the permissions often that they just kind of need. So why am I here talking, I hear you ask? I kind of got involved with Rebecca, who seems to be the key person for everybody, and she asked me to come along to a group that with you and was looking at the socio-economic deprived areas in kind of Scotland and thinking about the kind of report, and we had really interesting kind of chats about that. And while I was kind of there chatting to Rebecca, I started to speak about some of the work that inevitably I was doing with people around death, dying and bereavement. So one of the ladies that I work with runs a psychic night, and we started to kind of think about it not just being about the psychic night, about the reasons why people were coming, the kind of chats before, the chats after, the kind of thinking about what people have kind of who people have lost and how we might be able to remember those people. And the lady, Anne-Marie, who runs the Psychic Nights, has also become this bit of a one-stop shop for a lot of families in Muirhouse who have lost somebody, and she has been like printing off order of services or organising cups of teas in community centres. She's been doing some fundraising. She's basically been providing kind of emotional support. Which is pretty phenomenal for a lady who lost a partner and children about 15 years ago in a house fire. So how she is able to do that, I think, is fairly phenomenal. She is never about herself, and to be honest, a lot of people don't even really know that she's gone through that experience. She just kind of sees a vulnerability in them and kind of wants to kind of help. I suppose the key things that I've kind of learned over my 6 years in Muirhouse is nothing new probably to you, and a lot of people have already said it today, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of trust, it takes a lot of just walking alongside people. And there is a really big thing about power, and I know that's been spoken about on a few different presentations today. I think for myself, I really continually aware about power, and I think when you're open to it, you really see a lot of it with other organisations and workers, and the way that people don't even really realise are using their power. I think poverty is poverty. We could dress it up in different ways. Funeral, period, fuel, food, we could be here all day. But people are just really, really poor. And for me, Ewan's presentation earlier, you know, really was very hard-hitting and very good, I thought. So, yeah, it really saddens me, and I'm almost ashamed sometimes to think that we live in a society where people are so struggling. So, I think the really amazing thing for Link Up is when we started and we got money from the Scottish Government, there was no predefined outcomes. There was no, you have to run an archery group. There was no, you're going to do a bingo night. It was just go out and walk alongside people and see what it is that kind of comes of it. And I think that's what Alison's talking about. I don't feel in a box. I don't feel I can, you know, there was a guy in our photography group who was really struggling, and what he actually needed me to do was for 4 weeks every Monday morning go along and help him to decorate his living room. And I'd done that, and to him that has transformed his life, and then in turn helped him with this photography group, and he's really taken on an active role, and in turn they've helped him back, and it's all really lovely and great. Of course it's not all the time, but it's, you know, it's really, it's just steps, and like Alison's saying, it's a way of working, and it's about the values, I think, that you kind of adopt. And I suppose for me is that I deal with everything, and that does include death, dying and bereavement. And I suppose I felt a wee bit of a fish out of water coming to this event today, but I can really see how the work that I'm doing really fits in with this whole wider kind of work, I think. So that's me. I'm not going to say any more. But